presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate with you from the first kick to the last pitch. As always, TJ Corman with a brand new setup. Actually, you said it's not necessarily brand new, but we're seeing it as a brand new setup, right?
Yeah. I moved some stuff around in my home office in anticipation for some things that are going to be changing for me career-wise. So just wanted to get some new ambiance going on, and that you can see in the background, displaying some helmet stuff. There'll be a little bit more stuff on the walls here as we go along. So we're gonna continuously add on during the season. So
yeah,
thank you for noticing. It's like noticing a guy kind of redoing his office is kind of like noticing a woman's hair. I appreciate you, Dominic.
Yeah, it's like your man cave, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's my place of refuge.
And we'll break the news now that you're just going to do this. We're going to do this full time, right? Like,
yeah. That.
I wish that would be.
As soon as we start getting that 6-figure salary we've been asking for,
we can
any
do day now. Any day now. Speaking of salaries and the people that will one day be paying it, W Energy presenting sponsor as well as Fanplex Graphics. We'll show you their stuff again real quick. Got some of these mini posters. One for Troy. That previous one was Joey Aguilar for App State, and one of my favorites right here. I don't know how well you can see that.
Yeah,
Trap State.
Absolutely.
Trap State. You see that?
Yeah, nice.
I love it. And then we've also got TSN Off-Road. They are currently trying to fill 3 trucks to take to Western North Carolina from here in the Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill area. So if you happen to be a listener that's in that area, you can run anything by our facility and get some stuff headed up to Western North Carolina. And then we also have Dano's Seasoning, which I've just recently reached out to see if they're willing to kind of collaborate and do something as well. So we'll see how all that goes. As we know, still recovering. TJ, you still know anybody up there specifically right now?
Not right now. So I reached out to a couple people that I know that are on staff. I know, Doug Middleton, who played up there before. He does some media stuff and is working with the team, but he actually lives in Charlotte and is at the game. So he's employed by the university. But there's a shout out to Doug Middleton and also Brandon Turner, who was on our show a bit ago, who does the play-by-play on App Saturdays. He lives in Charlotte as well and is only on at App on game day. So those 2 guys are the guys that I knew that was, in that area. Reached out to them, but certainly thoughts and prayers with everybody that's involved. I reached out to some friends of mine that live in the Asheville area and surrounding areas, and it's bad, man. So if you can help in any way, certainly feel free to reach out to a lot of those. Again, reach out to us, and we'll find a way to get your help where it needs to be. So again, thoughts, prayers, love. Everything that you can think of is with those guys in Western North Carolina. We love you guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I have just recently run across a news website that has a lot of localized links that you can share donations, and they are willing to share information. I know there are people out there that obviously have some thoughts about Red Cross and other big foundations where you're not sure exactly where all the money is going to. So if you want something more localized, I can help you get a list of that. There's a lot of people putting stuff together that are a lot better at this and a lot more efficient than I am. So I did not try to get anything myself, but there have been people that have reached out to us on the socials and asked us where and how to do that. So I've tried to get them some answers along the way, as I know. And for those of you who are App State fans like ourselves here, Black and Gold Podcast is also doing a big one where I think they're at like $15,000, something crazy. So absolutely phenomenal. They had David Jackson on. TJ, I don't know if you've heard that episode, but he did a lot of talking about current conditions and what it was kind of like going through it and where they currently sit. Still obviously a lot to do there. Continue to think about that area of not only our state but of the country, because it includes a couple states really where they're all affected at different levels, but in the spots where it's bad, it seems to be really bad. So hopefully people are continuing to get the aid that they need, slowly, unfortunately, but surely in the end. As always, Artie Cat. Hello, Dominic and TJ. Texas State dodged that Mountain West Conference boat.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. Nothing would have surprised me, right? So I'm not really sure where that would have gone, but he's loving your new background as well, TJ. That's what he has to say there.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, and Chris Bolton jumping in today too. Georgia Southern fan. What's going on, fellas? So yeah, nice to have you in here tonight, Chris. Yeah, I think. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into our.
Oh boy, I got chewed out.
Yeah, we've got some thoughts and feelings. So our top three are just tad different, but we still have. I had a little movement, I guess, but James Madison, Louisiana, and Coastal Carolina, both the top three for us. I have Louisiana second. You have them third. I have Coastal third. You have them second. And then JMU remains in the top spot. After that, I've got a lot of movement over there on my top 7 aspect. TJ, your movement's really more on that 8 to 14 area. Let's go first. We both have Georgia Southern. Actually, I just realizing that too. We both have Georgia Southern in our top 4, climbing to the 4th spot after this weekend's victory over Georgia State. So I guess let's start there. What'd you see out of Georgia Southern that made you move them up specifically this week?
Yeah, saw a lot of good stuff out of Georgia Southern. Saw them able to kind of manage the game well. And listen, no, you said it yourself. There are no games that are going to be played in the Sun Belt that are going to be easy wins, right?
Nope.
It's rivalry week almost every week. So I like the way they handle themselves. I like the way they came out with the victory. And it's not so much, I know I had Georgia State moving down. It's kind of, if you want to call it a good loss, it's certainly a good loss losing to Georgia Southern, who has been really good, but it's still a loss. And the teams that are in front of you, outside of App, who did not play, everybody, won. And so, or except, South Alabama, who played against LSU. I'm not going to penalize them for having against LSU, right? I'm not going to penalize Arkansas State. So yeah, and that was really the biggest thing. I know there was a lot of conversation on the Twitter, as my mother would call it, about where I put ODU and why they were last. I did end up kind of, I guess you call it, bringing myself around and back to reality. When you look at it head to head, wins and losses, them versus Mississippi, Southern Miss. Sorry, you're splitting hairs. Well, not necessarily splitting hairs, but ODU has some better losses, if you will, than Southern Miss, and their win is a lot more quality than Southern Miss's win. So if I could do anything different on this, I would flip flop 13 and 14. But at the end of the day, what's really changing, right? The way this is going right now, neither of those teams are going to make a bowl game. So I don't think – and then Troy is just super disappointing this year. So that's where my movement was, and that's where a lot of the things happened for me. What about you?
Yeah. Well, let's go one more. So we have a very different opinion of Marshall and the Thundering Herd. I have them at my next spot, 5th, climbing to 5th, and you have them dropping actually to 11th. Now, I initially see probably what you're thinking. I mean, at least if I can mirror what I think is happening here. I expected them to go in there and win rather easily versus Western Michigan. I know this is an old school rivalry, as we've heard and found out. Maybe that was some sort of aspect to this. I'm not sure how much of that rivalry still exists with current players and staff. More of a historical fan base aspect. But to me, it was kind of like they weren't down as far as your side was, right? Like I had Marshall higher than you did to start with.
Right.
And I think that's what people are thinking is Marshall moved down in years after a victory, but I think that's more of people jumping up. I believe you had ULM below them to start the week. So
yeah,
that was one where they transition above them and drops Marshall down because of it. Mine also, Marshall's really getting moved up, not because of that victory over Western Michigan, more so that Texas State had lost and moved down, and Georgia Southern again wins it, like you said, a tough conference game. And so Marshall moves up a little bit by default. I don't think there's anything in that game specifically that made me go, Marshall's really great, I'm moving them up a spot. This is more of like a proxy thing. I believe it's more of where I had them versus where you had them, and then one of us going up, one of us going down. Now, a disparity between 5 and 11, people see that and they're questioning it. But, I mean, I don't know. Really, I think both of us could argue our own points here. I think Marshall could technically compete with 4, 5, 6, 7 over here. And I think that Marshall could also compete, win or lose, against 9, 10, 11, and 12 that you've got over there, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know where they stand. And I would say the same thing for App State, which I've got at 13 and you've got up at 9, both having dropped, I don't know, a week where they don't play the game for obvious reasons. But it has nothing to do with them. Again, it has more to do with the other teams jumping them. I don't know. I mean, do you want to have anything further you want to say about the Marshall aspect, about why we've got them such different rankings? Or
yeah, well, and like you said, to allude to your point, I never had Marshall very high on my list anyway. Coming into the season, I did not like the way they ended last year.
Right.
And so that left a very bitter taste in my mouth. We both expected them to do very well last year. They did not. They come into the year 2-2, very average football team. Their losses are their losses, right? And so for me, it was more of I never had you really high anyway. And so moving down isn't necessarily a microcosm of what they did. It was more of what other teams did in terms of moving ahead of them. So to your point, you had them higher to begin with than I did. So the discrepancy between 5 and 11 to me is more of where we started with the teams regardless.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. So for me and you, we both have ULM up at 8, both jumping up. I think your jump for them specifically was 2 or 3 spots, and I think mine was only 1 or 2. So not much disparity between where they started and where they're ending up now, obviously at the same spot. How much do you think that goes into what we think of them going into this matchup against James Madison? I know we'll spend a little bit more time on that in just a few minutes, but I mean, do we think all of a sudden ULM's really going to contend with them, or do you think that's more of a proxy of, who they've played with the schedule they've had so far? And as you alluded to, like Troy being down a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of the latter. I don't think that they go into JMU after seeing JMU put up 70 points, which, by the way, they did not do at all last year, right? JMU was known last year for being able to score at least 20 to 25 points and stop you from scoring 20. Right. Yeah. So, and that was kind of their mantra: play good defense and play well enough on offense to win. This year, they are scoring at will. And I think, I don't think that ULM has the offense that's going to be able to keep up, nor do I think that they can last 4 quarters against JMU's defensive front. So, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into it, but I don't see ULM. I'm not going to say they won't put up a fight. Every week in the Sun Belt, anything could happen, right? It's right. One of those kind of things. I mean, last year App had a great season, and ULM gave us everything they wanted. So true. It could be the same with JMU. So we'll see. But I'm not picking them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Georgia State both moves down for us. I don't think that one needs much explanation. They lose a conference game. You're probably likely to drop in that scenario. Neither of us had Arkansas State moving. You have them at 6. I have them at 10. Not a huge disparity there, but a little bit of one. Troy actually dropped down for me. They stay the same at 12 for you, but I have them at 11. Pretty close to the same. And then again, in the bottom, I actually had ODU jumping up 1 spot because I had them at 13. You had them at 14 and said maybe you would move them 1 spot, maybe. Right. And Southern Miss kind of sitting there towards the bottom as well. I have App State, obviously down there at 13. Again, I kind of have them with Marshall, so maybe it doesn't make sense, but I dropped them quite a bit after not so much the Clemson loss, the South Alabama loss, and just the way they looked in that one.
It was bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Okay, so that's enough of that. We got to go to the players of the week, and we have our first repeat so far of the season, which really no surprise, right? Alonzo Barrett III goes off once again, like you said. I mean, put up 70 points one week, put up 63 the next, and this guy is the mainstay of why it's happening, going 20 for 28 for 280 yards in the air with 5 touchdowns. Last week, I think it was 69 yards through the air. This time it's only 30. But, guess what? He just adds 10 rushes.
Only 30.
Yeah, only 30. 10 rushes for 44 yards, a touchdown. Again, not as long of a run this time, but again, 18 yards, still getting it done both through the air and on the ground. I will say that there was a close runner-up in Ben Woolridge from Louisiana, leading them to victory over Wake Forest, but I thought there were some other factors, which is why they won that. Plus, statistically, Barnett was pretty clear choice here. So congratulations to him. How much of that game did you see, or highlights did you see of him tearing up that Ball State defense?
All right, so I didn't watch it because I expected what we saw.
Good point.
It was one of those things where Ball State hasn't been good for a very long time. And I expected us, Sunbelt, yes, to go in and dominate, and that's exactly what happened. So, and let's not sleep on the 10 rushes for 4. I mean, that's 4.4 yards a carry, with his long being 18 yards, and then another touchdown on the ground. I mean, accounting for 6 touchdowns, and that's, I mean, you're damn near flawless to the air. I mean, 8 incompletions. You almost had as many touchdowns as incompletion. So that's saying a lot for how well of a job this guy did.
Oh yeah, and let's keep the clean sweep going as I trip over those words. The defensive player also comes from JMU. This is the second week in a row that all 4 spots have been claimed. Well, 2 spots each week, but all 4 spots in total have been claimed by James Madison Duke's players. And one reason I focused on Eric O'Neill, as last week unfolded against UNC, I had my eye on him because I like I said, I saw that game live, and he was a difference maker, but Spence stood out a little bit more, especially statistically speaking, and had the blocked punt. It's just a lot of things went into that. But this guy, I'm telling you what, if you're not watching him because you're focused on the ball, do the opposite when this guy's on the field, because Eric O'Neill is a disruptor. If he's not playing at the next level, I'll be shocked. 3 total tackles, 2 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception for a touchdown. And for a big man, we know that ain't easy to do, and we always love a big man touchdown. So full credit there to Eric O'Neill. I mean, he's pretty athletic too. I don't know if you saw that replay, but he jumped in the air as a lineman and knocked that thing right into his hands and took it the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, it takes some skill and some soft hands to do some things like that, right? I mean, you see guys that are in the NFL right now playing on Sundays that can't do those kinds of things. So, shout out to him. Kudos. He deserved it. I mean, this is a hell of a stat line. So,
yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Okay, TJ, it's everybody's favorite time of the show when you jump into your clip breakdown. So let's get into that right now. Go! All right, so our first clip comes from the Louisiana versus Wake Forest game up here in Winston-Salem this past weekend. We've got a Bill Davis run, almost a touchdown run, but not quite a touchdown run. As always, we'll run full speed first time, and then we'll slow it down for TJ to show us and tell us a little bit more about what we see. And we're focusing on Bill Davis, the running back here in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So at first glance, right, if you take a look at it, it just looks like a kind of a well drawn out, well blocked play. But I'm going to show you once we go through the slow motion as to why that happened and it was set up. So great blocking on the outside by the receivers, a little bit more on his horse. He got him a touchdown, but I can't fault him for being run down by a corner. That said, though, if you take a look at the inside slot receiver, right? So you talk about putting yourselves in position to make the offense, or make the plays easier on the offense and your offensive lineman. Take a look at this guy in the slot. He's going to come across your screen. Now, watch the nickel right here, and then the outside linebacker, I guess inside linebacker in the 3-4. Those two guys, they immediately take off because their eyes are with that slot guy going in motion. Well, it gets them out of the play, right? So now what you're doing is creating misdirection, a lot like Kyle Shanahan does with the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of misdirection, a lot of setting up blocks based on pre-snap motions and pre-snap reads. As a quarterback, you love this kind of thing, and as a running back, you love this kind of thing because what ends up happening is you're creating easy running lanes and easy offense for your running back because, again, you'll see here, everybody reacts, right? The entire defense reacts, and now you're going left and the ball's coming back right. Again, misdirection. You're getting yourself in position to get blocked if you're on defense, and you're putting yourself, as a coach, you're putting your offense in advantageous positions to get to those blocks and to make sure that those run lanes and run alleys are open up. You just wish you had maybe a third or fourth gear, and he might have got him there. So, but great play by Louisiana. Excellent call, and you can tell this is something that they practice a lot. Because the offensive line does a really good job of getting to that first level, and then if you look at your safety getting up to your center getting up to second level to get those blocks. So excellent job. Wake Forest was out coached on this play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A very pretty play to watch there. Southern versus State. Georgia Southern versus Georgia State. This is an O.J. Arnold touchdown run, and this first time at full speed, it's going to run through pretty quick. Because they get to the line and snap this thing quick, but we'll run it back right after that.
Yeah, I absolutely love this play right here. So you got at first glance offset eye right? And what the defense is looking at, and once we run it back, you'll be able to slow it down and so we can see it. The defense is looking at the quarterback coming out for a pitch, right? So it's a reverse pivot pitch for the quarterback. They're immediately thinking, because they see flow by the tailback to the right, that they're thinking, now look at everybody react in that backfield for the Panthers. Every single person thought it was going to be toss sweep to the right, and what ends up happening is you get that fullback coming underneath to the left and gets that short pitch. And so great play design, another misdirection play right out of that Kyle Shanahan playbook. It's something that it does to the eyes of the defense, and all it takes is for you to get out of position by half step. Watch the safeties, corners, everybody in the back of that defense for the Panthers. Watch all of these guys, all four of them. They're going to react right. Everybody reacts right. And guess what you've done when you react right? You give your offensive line an easy reach block so that you can get on the outside as a running back and get in the end zone. That was great design, great play call. Excellent job executing, because those kind of plays right there, when you're running those sort of trick plays and flashy plays, you set yourself up for some fumbles and some mishaps. So great execution, great play call, and all together just an excellent execution.
Very nice. Yeah, if you get O.J. Arnold one-on-one against a corner or safety, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. That guy's he's got tree trunk legs.
Yes, he does. And a large upper body too, man. That dude is not easy to bring down. Okay. Our last play for this week comes from the South Alabama versus LSU game. Unfortunately, the only touchdown of the day for South Alabama, as Anthony Eager gets into the end zone after a throw from Gio Lopez. So we'll play this one for you.
First of all, go Tigers. Second of all, so what you've got here is now you've gotten a fade route from the inside slot receiver. It is one of my favorite, as a slot receiver or slot guy, it is one of my favorite routes to run for me personally, because I wasn't very tall, right? So what ends up happening is that you give yourself, when you're at the numbers, when you line up on the numbers, you give the quarterback a lot of cushion, a lot of room for error to place that ball on that outside shoulder. So if you run it here, what you'll see is clean release, right? You got a linebacker covering a slot, which is also a mismatch to begin with. But a clean release, they're running man coverage, which you obviously can see. And it looks like his body language is expecting something towards the inside. He bites hard, and he just goes up and around him, never gets a hand on him. And, just great execution as far as ball placement goes. It also helps that 8 fell down. That said, though, when you're running that inside fade route from the slot position, so much cushion over there, so much room for that quarterback to kind of fit that ball in. And he doesn't have to be 100% accurate or 100% perfect. He's got some room for error and some margin to kind of get that ball in there. He ends up outside of the numbers, which if he was lined up on the numbers, he'd be out of bounds. So it's perfect play call, and great job by 11 executing.
Yes, it was. Thank you, as always, for those great breakdowns, man. Like I said, I can show this one time, and he's immediately got 3 things. Immediately, he's like, "Hey, Nick, throw that back, and let's review where this guy's at, and watch what he does here."
Well, and because the cool thing about it is as somebody who's played quarterback and receiver, right? So you look at it from both. Now, albeit quarterback in high school, we didn't do a whole lot of reading defenses. However, when you play the game for as long as, somebody like myself or a lot of these guys have, what you end up doing is you can sort of see why it's not – when you're looking at it from a fan's perspective, you're saying to yourself, wow, what a great play. He broke free or whatever. But there's always a why, right? What did we do or what did they do? So sometimes the defense just plays out of position and you get beat, and it's just good on better. But a lot of times, and especially in these misdirection run plays that we just saw, a lot of time it's the coaching that is setting you up for easy pin blocks, easy reach blocks, and those kinds of things. And that's what sets you up for success. It's not just the big plays that you see on Saturdays. It's why those things happen. And that's what we gotta kind of, as I guess analysts, if you want to call me that, break down, because I want you to see why it happens and the way it happens.
Yeah, I only wish that we could really have a telestrator for me or you to actually have and do this so it's even more clear, and we don't have to deal with the aspect of throwing it back 15 seconds, because that's all we can do instead of kind of doing that slow rewind that they can do on ESPN with all the fancy tools. Again, one day, 6-figure salary, we'll be able to do that thing for you guys.
We're here. We're waiting on you. Hey, college football dogs, we are yours forever if it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We are ready to roll. So this week we have exciting stuff, really, and it's going to be a lot of fun because it's a little easier to break down, I feel like, because we really know the inside and out of all of these teams compared to what we were doing for the past couple of weeks, which was, previewing teams we hadn't seen anything of. We're having to go look all the stats up, watch a little videotape, and figure out where some of these teams sit as they come in and play, the teams from our conference. But this one, as you can see across the board here, all conference matchups, only a couple teams not playing. Obviously, the Georgia schools out on this one. They just played each other last week, but a lot of the other teams are rolling into this one. So we'll get right into this, and we have a game as soon as tomorrow night.
Woo-hoo!
As Troy plays host to Texas State. And as already said, Texas State staying in the conference. So we had Caleb Coop on. We had Ishmael Mahdi on. I don't know if Mahdi really said it, but I know Caleb said it, that when I said, what's one team you guys look at as like a rival? And the sentiment from Trojan Joe and the Troy boys was not reciprocated, but the Texas State players feel like their current best rivalry resides against these Trojans of Troy. And this might be the year to really pick them off and start to assert some dominance, especially since they're going to stick around in this conference, as we know now. Do you think that happens, or do you think what happened against Sam Houston State kind of continues to roll along here for Texas State, and they may struggle in this game versus a one-win Troy team?
No, I'm picking Texas State, and I'll tell you why. McLeod has been on an absolute tear this year. I mean, he's got over 11. He's got almost 1,200 passing yards right now, 12 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Right, he's slinging it all over the lot. We're only 4 games in. You know what I mean? So let's do some quick math. That's a lot of yards per game, right? At least 300 per game, or close to 300 per game. So I mean, you're looking at his per game average. Obviously, Ross for Troy is absolutely outstanding. I mean, he's got almost 600 yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. So and you got him pictured here. I do think that Troy is going to give him a good fight, but I don't think based on the way Troy's played this year so far, I'm not confident in them at all. I am fairly confident in what Texas State has done and what they're going to continue to do on tomorrow night. And by the way, just a quick little tidbit for those of you listening. Starting tomorrow, we have 55 days straight of nothing but football, whether it's NFL or college. So until the day before Thanksgiving, there is football on your television every single day for the next 55 days. Can you get excited about it? I'm excited about it.
I'm very excited. There's only one group of people who are not. Do you know who that group is?
I don't know. Maybe my wife, because I'm not going to be listening to half the things she says.
I was going to say wives and girlfriends. They're not happy to hear that. Everybody else is static. But I do need to share some stuff here from Artie because it's fantastic. Stand by for sick first down and basic tackle dances. Word is Olympic breakdance legend Ray Gunn helps smooth out the wrinkles.
Okay.
Yeah, so for those that haven't been following along or paying attention on Twitter, they seem to be okay with letting the players really celebrate and muck it up after plays, which I'm for too.
Absolutely.
But you have to do your job fully, and then you can do that even more and make sure you're doing it at the end of the game as well. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration for fans comes in, right? Like, we're fine with that if you win by 20 points. But if you jump out, and as they did against Sam Houston State, 22-0, and then I think they were up 31-7 or 10, and then you end up losing the game, it's a lot harder for those people that are watching that game to swallow that. And also some important news here. Ben Bell is sitting out the rest of the season, it appears. Who knows why? I have seen not necessarily contradictory news to that, but maybe they're not 100% that he's going to sit out. They're kind of trying to talk him into coming back and not using the red shirt season. There may be an aspect of play where his prognosis towards the NFL isn't as high as he would like, and then maybe he could use another year at the college level. And obviously NIL will allow that to be something that's easier done for a lot of these players. Speaking of somebody who's out on the Bobcat side of things, we don't know the full extent of where Goose Crowder sits as well for Troy, as he was knocked out of the game against ULM in the second quarter this past weekend and did not return to action. Kilchrist took over and was, I would say he was effective. He didn't throw too many passes. I think he was like 6 for 8 or 5 of 8 for 57 yards, but he did have 55 on the ground. So probably brings an aspect to the Trojans offense that they haven't seen thus far. But again, you've got to talk about his chemistry with Ross. Obviously he was a big missing piece last week with where he had been, I guess I should say. He was obviously there and played, but not putting up, as TJ and I know, and most of you who have followed along, not the usual statistics for a player of Ross's caliber. So interesting here. And one thing that we should probably point out is Texas State typically jumps up on the scoreboard pretty quickly against their opponents in the first half. It's holding on to that lead and putting the game away where they struggle. Is that Coach Kenny letting off the foot off the gas a little too much? I don't know specifically. I have to go back and literally watch the games to see if he's really holding back. I don't remember seeing that when I watched Arizona State. Artie can tell us maybe a little bit more about what the dynamic was. I was trying to watch 3 games at once when the Sam Houston State game was on, so it was hard for me to keep up exactly. I know that they were kind of going 3 and out. It felt like a lot towards the end of the game, and I don't know if that was conservative play calling or I don't know. I don't know what it was. But that seems like what they have to change going forward. And obviously Troy has a couple of things that they need to get right in order to get off the schneid there. What is the spread on that one? 13 points for Texas State.
Now listen, that's almost borderline disrespectful. So
yeah.
I'm not going to tell you they're going to win by 14. I'm not going to say that, but I am picking Texas State to win it. I had them by 4 or 5. Couple weird scores here or there, maybe some field goals back to back, some things like that happening. I don't think they're going to score in every single drive. I do have respect for Troy, right? And out of respect for them, from a tradition, I don't have Texas State blowing them out. Now, I could be 1,000% wrong about that. And quite frankly, based on the way McLeod has played, see, I mean,
CJ says 21.
I'm not buying that, but I am picking Texas State to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of along the lines of you, TJ, we saw what Troy did against Iowa. Very impressive performance against a very good team. Iowa's offense, obviously not the most dynamic, but, Troy's offense was dynamic against a really good defense, and their special teams was outrageous in that game specifically. So that's where, you put Ross back there to field punts and kicks, and he's your weapon at wide receiver. You've got a chance to win any game. It's really going to be on the defenses, I feel like, right? Are they going to hold up to these high-powered offenses? I know, people at Troy are saying we don't have a high-powered offense right now, but you could. I think the explosiveness, especially from your wide receiver core, is there.
Sure.
But can they put it all together in the same game? Yeah, because you have to have, and you know this, we all know this, you have to have your offense match your defense in some regard as far as hitting on all cylinders goes. And Artie says it's coaches must make basic game adjustments. We've heard that before, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, we've heard that a little bit across this conference. So it looks like, I mean, it's true though. I mean, from an outside perspective, they have the talent and the playmakers to win every game that they've played. Literally, they lost by a field goal to Arizona State, a late interception to lose that one. They were up easily twice, 2 different times, I guess you should say, against Sam Houston State, and should have kind of coasted to a victory, even if you allow it to get within 6 or 3 points at the end because of some field goals and some late touchdowns. I mean, you should still walk out of that stadium at NRG Stadium in Houston with a victory. But unfortunately for them, they didn't do it. And then, obviously you can't be losing to Conference USA teams. Come on now, guys.
Sure.
Can't have that. All right. I think a lot of people will have a lot of interest in this game, not only within the conference, but within the country, because they want to see what the response is by Appalachian State. They come into the game 2-2. Marshall also comes into the game 2-2. I mean, to me, this is more of a coin flip. I think you can see that with Marshall being favored by 3 points at home. That's kind of the typical. We don't really know. The home team's going to win by 3. And I wouldn't doubt that. But how many? We can simplify this one, right? How many times have we seen a team and a sport even rally around a tragedy, an event like what has unfolded here? These kids haven't been going to school because classes have been canceled. I mean, I think they're not even going back until at the earliest next week. They've been going out into the community and helping people get stuff out of their homes and taking stuff to their homes. And obviously they've got, some of them have insurance claims they got to put forth for cars that literally floated away and whatnot. So I really don't have any clue what to make of. Nothing would surprise me. One of the teams could win by a blowout. It could be a slobber knocker that goes into overtime. I really have no idea what to make of this. So TJ, why don't you lend your playing expertise from back in the day at App State, knowing what you know about Marshall, and let us know something better than what I just said.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not much more of a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that, because listen, I mean, so if you put tragedy aside, and I don't want to brush that or sweep that under the rug, but you look at it for what it is, right? Appalachian State has not played well. They have not played good football. That said, Marshall has not played great football. I think Marshall has, the loss to Virginia Tech. I'm not going to call that a quality loss. Virginia Tech is awful. Virginia Tech is an awful football team. You beat Western Michigan, but that's, barely. Is that a quality win? Who knows? A win is a win. I'm not going to ever discredit a win. Like you said, I'm not sold on either football team as it relates to, am I going to put my money or bet or, who can come out and win this game? I do think now we talk about the X's and O's, right? Who's been good, who hasn't been good, quality losses, wins, all that stuff. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is the emotional side. And you touched on it a bit, right? Sometimes out of tragedy comes triumph. And I don't want to use this game as kind of a rallying cry for those of us or those people that are on the western side of the state. Obviously, tragedy is tragedy, and football does not make, the things go away, like losing your home and losing your cars and your businesses and those kinds of things. Football doesn't make that go away, but it can offer a little bit of some solidarity at the time when you need it. And so my hope is that, this sort of rallies the Appalachian State football team, that they can come out and put a full game together, right? Offense, defense, special teams. I know we've got some injuries on defense. I think Virgil, I'm not sure what his status is. I'm pretty sure he's not playing this week, but I don't know what his status is going forward throughout the rest of the season. But I know that it's next man up, right? And so we've got to be able to put together some good drives, and we've got to be able to stop and keep them off the field and give our offense a chance to sort of run the ball and do the things that we do. So my heart says Appalachian State. My head says who the hell knows?
Yeah. I will agree with you there. CJ says App State shows what they could have done versus Liberty. I hope for personal reasons. Yeah, that'd be great. I know Marshall fans think otherwise. And look at this. Look who's showing up.
Hey, what's up, Dex?
We got to get him on the show soon, man.
Dexter Jackson. I used to do that. He hated that. I used to do it almost every practice.
Oh, was that a student section chant? Is that where you got that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Every single practice, every time we came out, I used to yell Dexter Jackson for no reason at all. He could just be standing there. I would do it.
Oh man, yeah. App State, great. Dexter Jackson, wide receiver. Maybe you've heard of him.
Former
He
Tampa
caught
Bay
some balls
Buccaneer.
against Michigan.
Yeah, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, second round draft pick. I think he ran a 4.31 or 4.30 as a 40-yard dash at the combine. Want to talk about speed. Oh, and I think he came in second in the 200 for the conference meet for at the time, which was Western was really good at running track back in the day. So he not only did he do it on the football field, but he also did it on the track. So shout out to Dexter Jackson, man. I know he's down there coaching in Georgia, and those guys have got a great teacher for sure. Love you,
yeah.
Man.
You know what? I think I may have said this at some point since we've been doing this, but one of the plays that stands out to me the most is actually a play from a game that very few people probably remember details of. But you guys came off the bus, returned from Michigan. You came out the next week. You had to play Lenore Ryan, based out of Hickory, North Carolina. It was a Division II team. It's probably the last time you guys played. App State has played a Division II team. I just remember so many of their fans be like, we could spring us a miracle too. First play of the game. Armonte's now sitting because of being banged up after the Michigan victory. Trey Elder goes back, drops back, first play of the game. A deep shot to Dexter Jackson for a touchdown, and everyone's like, "It's over. It's game over. Game over."
Yeah, that was both a good and bad day. My brother, I know you know this. My brother was a starting running back for Lenore Ryan at the time, and so my parents, we had about 30 family members at the stadium.
Oh wow!
My parents had black T-shirts on with like gold writing on the front that had Corman and my number, and then red writing on the back that had Corman and his number on the back of it.
Nice.
So it was like. And you could tell exactly who they were there for. It was a cool moment. Obviously, I'm happy we won. We put up some points that day, and Dex was a huge part of it.
Oh yeah. Both you guys, I'm sure, put up points on that one. I don't know who didn't score on the team. It felt like, but I sat literally in a tree line of Kid Brewer. That's where I had to sit because there were no seats. It was. If you guys think the stadium is packed now. You should go back and see if you could find pictures or video of that game. I've never seen more people. I know the capacity is technically bigger now, but I'm telling you, there had to be more people.
I think there was only like 17,000 seats. I think we sold like close to 30,000.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure every fire marshal in town was like, "You can't do this." I'm like, "But we need the money."
But also, we're going to do it.
Yeah, you can't stop us. Oh man, right. CJ said, "Staying on this note, it's great to see the Sunbelt rally around Boone." Yeah, and I am glad people are focusing on Boone. There is, the main drag there with the campus and King Street is mostly kind of turning around at a good rate of speed. Okay. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not going to be for a while, but when you see it from the outside right now, the highways are moving along. There's cars going in and out. It's the ancillary roads, the smaller roads, the back roads. People don't see, TJ and I lived in Boone for a long time. Those things changed, but even when we lived there was all kinds of places where we'd go to parties or see people going and not even know that those roads had existed previously. That's where the trouble is. So yeah, I mean, you may see some stuff coming out where people say, "Oh, but it looks fine in Boone." That's not going to be true. That's not the case. Right. At face value,
where you will be, where the campus is, looks okay, looks fine. But you get on those low areas, there's some damage, and there's some people who have lost a lot. I was watching a video the other day of Bavarian Village and a couple of the places that I've visited and frequented quite a bit. And I mean, there's just furniture stacked up along the sides of the road, and I mean, just all kinds of things that the kids have lost. And then, I was talking to Brandon Turner about it earlier today. A lot of those kids, they don't have renter's insurance because they haven't had to have it, right? I mean, a lot of that stuff, when it's gone, it's just gone. Now, sure, obviously you've got insurance on your car and things like that, but couches, beds, things like that. If you're a first floor apartment, I mean, it's ruined. It's legitimately ruined. So thoughts and prayers, man, to just, again, I know we said it earlier, but everybody involved, it's a bad time. what you'll see in Boone at the university is not a depiction of what the rest of the area looks like. It's bad.
Yeah, because I've seen some people. I don't know if it's because of when somebody puts a camera in your face, you just kind of automatically smile. But a lot of people in the cleanup stuff have been pictured, and their smiles. But I can tell you this: they don't go home all smiling, because there's people. I mean, Seth, who jumps on the wrap up show quite a bit, he's without power. They told him it could be a month before he has power again. Yeah. He has to go elsewhere to take a shower. They just got their road back literally today to be able to access their cars to drive in and out. So these things aren't easy to deal with. And hopefully it just continues to get some progress made. Ben James, alluding to the fact I-40 through Asheville, saying it's closed until September 2020. I mean, they have to literally rebuild a major highway. Yeah. So Asheville is not right around the corner from Boone. So that tells you the extent of the damage right there. Because I think, was it like 2 hours from Boone to Asheville? Roughly.
Yeah. Hour 45, 2 hours roughly.
Yeah. So, it's not a small area, and it ain't going to get easier. CJ said, I know as a JMU fan, I've had some bad stuff with App State fans, but there's a lot of good people from Boone I've called and checked on. JMU Nation supports Appy. We'll just take that Y off for you there, CJ.
We'll get rid of that. But thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. But we'll keep a little bit of the rivalry stuff still hanging around a little bit. We don't want to be too friendly here. To wrap this up before we go on to the next game, finally, it will be a weird dynamic to me. Like typically when the other team comes out, they get booed, and it's usually a little bit of people that really mean it, and then there's the like, boo, your other team, I don't care who it is, I'm always booing.
Right?
It's gonna feel weird. Like I feel like they're gonna get an ovation from the Marshall fans, which it would be awesome, right? It's gonna be like. I just don't know. Again, that's what makes me not know what to make of this. Does everyone come in at that level ready to compete and hammer the other team, or does it kind of feel weird? Like it feels more like a practice when you're starting out, because it's just not. I don't know. I mean, the coaches on both sides are going to have a heck of a job on their side to just get these kids focused and say, we still have to go out here and do our jobs today, even though it's not maybe quite the same as it always has been.
And that's why, like I said, if you talk about the X's and O's, and sometimes X's and O's, a lot of times, 95% of the time, X's and O's matter. But then there's that 5%. Sometimes it's just emotion. I mean, I liken it back to after Hurricane Katrina. I'm not comparing what we're going through to what Hurricane Katrina was, but that Gleason blocking that punt. At the first game back in the Superdome. I mean, it meant something to those people. And that's the kind of thing. Now, obviously, this game's on the road, but I can tell you this: the next time, if and when App has a home game, that stadium is going to be full. It is going to absolutely be full. Whether we've just come off a win or a loss will not matter. That they are going to be rallying around this football team as they should, and that stadium is going to give that football team a giant hug collectively.
Yeah. It'll be a game where I really don't think people will be leaving early. I don't care if it's 41-7. I really don't think you'll see a lot of people leaving in droves. It'll be about community as much as it is a football game. I got to see these people that I haven't seen. I got to check and make sure these people are good. Like not just one conversation, are you okay? Like really spending time with those people and feeling like it actually makes sense to you. It matters to you that person's okay. So definitely going to be a game most people are going to be checking in on at the very least. Unfortunately, it's on ESPN Plus, so you will have to have the subscription to get a hold of that. But I think as us Sunbelt fans mostly already have all those things set up.
And to be a Sunbelt fan, a true Sunbelt fan, you got to add the plus.
Yeah. So why don't you throw us some sponsorship dollars, ESPN Plus? We'll be ready for it.
I'm here.
We'll tell everybody else to subscribe. And Ben James is saying, in his opinion, Marshall upsets App State.
Is it really an upset if they win? I appreciate you. I guess adding that. You don't want to sound. I don't think it's rude at all. I think it's a fair.
Not rude.
App State has not been good, and to my point, to asking you that, Dominic, if they win, is it an upset based on the way that they played? I don't think so.
No. I mean, you got both teams coming in 2-2. The only thing you can say is, App's already got that conference loss, so do you say, well, Marshall came in and one of their losses to Ohio State? Well, I mean, one of App's losses is Clemson. I mean, I don't think you can't put one of these schools on a pedestal any more than you could the other. So
sure.
I think that's why we're seeing that 3-point spread in this one. So, all right, we spent enough time on that one. We got some more to get to. This one is a little lopsided here. So we're coming in with ODU having a 1-3 record, getting that first victory just this past week against an impressive Bowling Green team coming in. I don't know if they were impressive in this game. I don't know. But they are going up against Coastal Carolina, who sits at 3-1. So, again, the opposite record right there. And, just to mention, that game Thursday night, obviously all by itself. That game with App State, a 3:30 start. No other Sunbelt games until 7 o'clock that night, where we get 4 stacked on top of each other. So I'll have screens everywhere to try and keep up with all this. But this is the first one on the docket because it comes up next. TJ, this one has a Coastal Carolina victory by 5 if you go with the spread. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I got Coastal winning. And honestly, I think the spread is right. And the reason I think the spread is right is not because of anything that Coastal won't do. I actually think ODU's defense is pretty good. The way that they've played so far this season, they've played pretty darn well. I think Coastal at the end is going to have too much offense, right? I think they're going to be able to do too much as it relates to ODU, and really ODU's not going to be able to match that. I've got them. I mean, I think 5 is an appropriate spread, especially maybe 7, 10. If they won by 10, I wouldn't be super shocked. And it's kind of a compliment to ODU's defense that they're only favored by 5 at home. Right? I think they're at home, only favored by 5 at home. I think that says, honestly, that's only a 2-point swing for ODU. So I think ODU comes out and plays pretty well because they have all year on defense, but I don't think it's going to be enough. The problem isn't their defense. The problem is they can't score points. And that's been their issue all season, or at least, these first 4 games, whereas Coastal has no problem putting up points. And I think that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, what's weird is they perform better offensively, I guess barely. No, technically they scored 4 less points against Virginia than they did against Temple. But Temple's offensive statistics are not. I mean, Ethan Vasco went 15 of 21, 103 yards, 1 touchdown.
Right.
He did have 92 yards and was the leading rusher on the day against that Temple team. But it was just kind of one of those weird games. They weren't impressive against Temple, and Temple's a really bad football team, still winless on the season there. And then they come in and they play UVA, and he does better, obviously. But in a sense, the team wasn't as close, 43-24 in the score in that game. So it's hard for me to say.
Against a lot of those stats came in the third, going into the fourth quarter too. So against Virginia starters, I mean, it was not a very good showing.
No, definitely a slow start, and they warmed up. And honestly, that game, to me, it felt like it was a little closer than the score indicated. Having watched, I missed most of the first half, but I got back in time to see all the second half. And they cut it really close there for a minute at the beginning of that third quarter aspect. And then Virginia just kind of turned it on and didn't really outscore them too much, but just wouldn't let them get caught up, essentially.
Exactly.
I think this game could actually kind of, not in the scoreboard aspect, but could mirror that one where Coastal can't really pull away. Like you mentioned, ODU's defense is actually very impressive. But can ODU's offense do what they did last week? I think they were pretty good against Bowling Green. I don't know what to make of that game, right? Going into it,
it's tough. Yeah.
I had Bowling Green hammering them by 2 touchdowns, probably. I mean, Bowling Green had only losses to ranked Penn State, close within 1 score, and a ranked Texas A&M, which was also close within 1 score. And then they come, and you're playing at home after you're returning home after all this, right? So you're 1-2. Okay, not a great record, but if you look at why you're 1-2, you're coming home. You're gonna hammer this team that hasn't won a game yet, right? And this is why they play the game. They say it all the time, but ODU looked like the better team. Now, I don't think they looked a big gap better, but they were putting up better performance than they had so far this season. And they brought in a new quarterback to be part of that because they still had 2 play. Wilson here pictured. Oh man, I'm going blank on the other kid's name right now. Do you have it up in front of you?
Oh,
I know I caught you off guard there.
yeah.
We'll bring it up, but yeah, I mean, he actually ran for a touchdown at the end of that game, more so than like being a big threat throwing the ball. But yeah, I mean, it's like, what are they doing? Are they playing musical chairs with this, or is it more of, maybe he's finally taken over Wilson for the starting spot? That was Colton Joseph is his name there. I mean, 6 of 13, which Wilson was 6 of 14. So it's not, again, it's a marginal improvement, but maybe Joseph is more electric on the ground because he did go for 65 yards and have that touchdown. I mean, Vasco kind of came in and did that at Coastal with hey, let me beat you with my feet until I get more comfortable and better through the air. It's okay. I think, at this point of the season, let him ride it out.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, so you talked about the losses a bit ago and the difference between the losses and why they won when Bowling Green. I think, too, what ODU has shown us, I mean, the game against South Carolina, they played really well defensively, right? And South Carolina's a damn good football team. They gave Kentucky everything they wanted, and Kentucky gave Georgia everything they wanted, right? So it wasn't, it wasn't a fluke game. And again, that goes back to how well ODU's defense is. So to be surprised that they didn't win or the margin, wasn't what it should have been against Bowling Green, the defense is really, really good for ODU. And I think they're going to continue to be good. And I think it'll be, like you said earlier, to kind of, I guess, echo what you talked about. Coastal will do enough to win, but ODU won't let them pull away.
I think I'm comfortable with that too. Yeah, I agree exactly with that sentiment. So Coastal gets by at home, we'll say, in that one. Another really interesting matchup, and both it's kind of disappointing to see so many teams coming in with like 2 or 3 losses already, but I don't think that tells the full story of what some of these teams have gone through. South Alabama, 2-3 so far on the year, no conference games to speak of, goes into Jonesboro, Arkansas, who's coming in. The Red Wolves are to their home place at 2-2 with also 0 conference games up to this point. Oh, actually, that's a lie. South Alabama has a conference win against App State. So
yes, they do.
Erase that. But Arkansas State has yet to play a conference game. In fact, they were on a bye last week. So I don't know, man. One thing I'll say is don't miss this one. The quarterback play should be phenomenal in this one. I expect Rayner to really round into form after a bye week and a little bit of early season struggles, although they had 2 ranked teams on their schedule that they had to go play on the road. So I don't know. What you think South Alabama lights up the scoreboard again?
I don't know about lights it up, but I do think they win pretty handily. Now, Arkansas, when I say handily, I mean by like 10, maybe 14. I don't quite think it's going to be 2 touchdowns. I think, what's the spread? 3.5. And that's, again, it's kind of one of it's close, right? Because they're going down to Arkansas, or going over to Arkansas, I guess up to Arkansas.
Yeah. Yep.
The environment is going to be very tough to play in, but I think South Alabama, they have too much, man. I mean, Gio Lopez is just an absolute freaking stud, man. 1,000 yards on the season, 10 touchdowns. He can run the ball really well. He's not lightning quick. He's no Lamar Jackson, but he's certainly good enough on the ground. He made mincemeat out of Appalachian State's defense, both running the ball and throwing the ball. They do a really good job, the receivers do, of finding zone holes and sitting down in them. So I would advise against Arkansas State running a lot of zone, maybe switch it up, maybe do some zone blitz and that kind of thing. Keep them, rush contain. If it was my advice to Arkansas State is, playing against a guy like Gio Lopez, who is a very, very strong runner, right? Don't rush to sack him, rush to contain him, make him beat you from the pocket. If he's able to get outside and create, that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. And that's when, those kinds of things are going to start happening to you. So I think for Arkansas State, their best medicine is to kind of rush. If they can get there with 4 and not have to blitz and play man with maybe a little bit of free safety over the top to kind of roam the field, I think that's going to be their best medicine for stopping Alabama or South Alabama. But I don't see it happening. If I had to bet my money I'm betting my money on South Alabama based on what they've. Now, it could have been one of those things where App State just put up just a dud performance, and maybe that's not who South Alabama actually is. I am more inclined to believe the former, which is that this is who they are, and I think they win this one. I think the spread is fairly accurate, 3.5. I would say it wouldn't surprise me if they won by 7. 10 might be a stretch.
I'm going to go bigger than that. I think South Alabama wins this game easily.
Okay.
I was a believer in Arkansas State coming into the season. I thought Jalen Rayner was going to light up the nation. Maybe they weren't going to win the games on the road against those ranked opponents, but I thought he would put up.
I was going to say, I mean, quality of opponent matters. Michigan and then Iowa State back to back, both ranked teams. I know Michigan has fell a little bit. I think they're like 16th or 17th now in the season, but I mean, I don't know. I think those are, if you want to call a loss a quality loss, I mean, I'm not mad at it.
Quality loss, but
and they played Michigan tough. Sorry.
Well, we talked about that though. They played Michigan tough, but like that final score showed closer than that game felt. Going back and watching that one, I'm like, at what point do they score to make this game interesting? Because I'm watching it late into the fourth quarter, and I'm like, this game's not close at all. So they made it look good on the scoreboard with 2 late touchdowns, but that game was never close. That game was never in doubt. Besides when they first kicked the ball off, even when they had the late touchdowns, it was like I think they scored that last touchdown with like 2 seconds left or 4 seconds left, something.
Right.
So you're like, it's the game's over, right? Kick off, even if you get the onside, you'd have to, kick a field goal and score a touchdown within 2 seconds, whatever it was. I think South Alabama is going to come in here and say who we saw against LSU last week is not who they are. They're more similar to what we saw against App State. Now, I'm not saying they go in there and roll the Red Wolves like they beat App State. I think part of that was what you said was a little bit of a dud game by App State. They did not look that bad against ECU, and I think ECU is a formidable opponent. I don't think ECU is great, but I think
they're quality.
Right. They're a quality enough opponent that you just don't walk in and walk out with the victory and be like, that was easy. No, you're not saying that. Even if even if they don't have a great record, you still don't walk in and walk out with a victory. It's not that simple. So I actually favor South Alabama by probably like 10 points at least. I don't know if Arkansas State's defense is there yet. That's my biggest concern. And I don't think they're not flowing offensively, and now they're coming off a bye. So now they've had a long rest. I mean, did they work on some things that are really going to make their offense look better? It's very possible. I won't believe it until I see it because I feel like I haven't. I mean, they almost lost to the Central Arkansas, FCS opponent first week of the season. And now they've played some other tough teams. And it's like, I still just don't know exactly where this team is. And I feel like I'm more comfortable throwing out that LSU loss from South Alabama and then saying I'm more likely to see the rest of it. Ben James saying don't underestimate the Red Wolves. I mean, I am until proven otherwise. I have to. It's again, like you said to us, Ben. Like no offense. It's no offense to you personally. It's just I just haven't seen anything that makes me go, okay. They've got the flashes. They just need to put it all together. Sure, I haven't seen enough to say that yet. So we'll see what happens in that one. Okay, in what is probably the game of the week. In the Sun Belt. Who would have said that coming into this season that a 4-0 James Madison was going to travel down to Monroe, Louisiana to play the 3-1 and 1-0 in conference Warhawks on ESPNU, game elevated to ESPNU at 7:00. So this one will be on your big screen. Okay, records say one thing. Does the play on the field say something else on this one, TJ?
Yeah, we talked about it a bit coming into the show. I look, ULM, what they've done has been nothing short of admirable, right? I mean, they've got some really, really quality wins. They beat Jackson State, UAB, and then obviously having beaten Troy 13-9. That's a lot, a testament to their defense. I don't know that defense can slow down JMU. I think the spread is 17 if I'm looking at it. Right? Yeah, spread 17. I don't know if I go so far as to say 17. I wouldn't be shocked, though. JMU just put up 70. Now, they gave up 50.
Yeah.
So there's that. Do I think ULM is capable of scoring 50? I absolutely do not. Listen, I think JMU goes in there and handles business. They win fairly, I don't want to say easily, but they win it kind of going away. And I think based on what I've seen, JMU is the real deal.
Yeah. So I was looking at this, and like we said, App State went down there last year and played like a surprisingly close game in ULM and had to win with like, what was it, a 50 something yard field goal to win it, right? With a walk-off win, something incredible that they came out with. But if you look at the statistics as far as offensive numbers go, James Madison has scored the second most points in the entire conference against all opponents so far, obviously added all together, 176 points on the year, points for on the year. On the opposite side of that spectrum, the second worst scoring team is ULM. The only team worse is Southern Miss. But they have only put up 78 points offensively on the year, almost 100 points less than James Madison. Now, defensively, JMU only allowing 70 all season, ULM only allowing 80. So you've got a defensive matchup that is interesting here, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough, like you said, to slow down this James Madison offense that has been, like we've seen and like we've said and like we've talked about with players of the week, literally been firing on all cylinders. And it doesn't matter who they play, whether it's a power opponent or a team that maybe is more closely aligned to an FCS team in Ball State, or maybe they just made them look like that because of what they did.
Yeah, listen, my money's on James Madison. I think, Jesus, JMU.
JMU by 45. You know, when people say JMU or Texas State or whatever their favorite team is by 90, you're like, oh, okay, haha. I think CJ may be fairly serious here.
Look, if they can put up 70 against Carolina, and listen, Carolina's I'm not tooting Carolina's horn. They're not a good football team. But Jesus Christ, 70? I don't care who you're playing. You can play against my high school and score 70, and I'm going to respect that. 70 is 70 no matter where you're playing on earth. He might not be far. At 45 just seems like a lot, though.
Yeah, 45 is a lot. I'm not going anywhere near that. Again, with ULM's defense playing very well so far, I
wouldn't be shocked if they won by 20.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that. I wouldn't be shocked by half of 45. Yeah. I'm dead serious like a cardiac event.
Listen, I'm with you, and I appreciate the fan spirit, but 45 just seems like a whole lot. Like that is, I mean, the defense is like you said. You broke it down just a bit earlier, so eloquently, and I appreciate that. Defenses are pretty evenly matched, but Jesus Christ, when it comes to that offense, JMU is, they are light years ahead.
Yeah. Jag Nation Radio tuning in and saying, give me the Hawks. I don't know. I'm just feeling it. Like we said, ULM has been told by a lot of people in this conference, not an easy place to go play. Now, sometimes they've been saying those types of things because there's nobody there, right? They've talked about that. There's not a lot of people in the stands. It's a pretty big stadium to have nobody there, and it feels weird and it's quiet. I don't think this one's going to be quiet. I think the locals are buying in. You've got a 4-0 James Madison team that is on the cusp of being ranked. Honestly, if they go in there and they win by anywhere near 45 points, I think you have to rank James Madison at this point. Nobody else is doing those types of things besides power teams. So if they put on a performance like that on national television, on ESPNU at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, and they win very, very convincingly, I'm putting a stamp by their name and saying they should be and deserve to be a ranked team. After a slow start where I said, even with the win over UNC, you can't be serious about having them be ranked, right? UNC wasn't ranked, so it wasn't like they beat, some great team. Now, they were undefeated, so you got to give them that. But, anything over 45 ranked JMU and give us College Game Day again. Yeah, well, you might earn it if you keep rolling along like this. I don't know who they'd put up there, but we'll see.
Boise State, though? Boise State's running back is pretty darn good. Do we get a ranking in our conference before Boise State does?
Well, no, Boise State's ranked currently.
They are ranked currently. Okay.
Mm-hmm. They are ranked currently, and they deserve to be, I think. I'm pretty sure I know they're ranked in the college football dogs poll. Maybe I need to check that for me while
I was going to say, I can.
I thought they were ranked, though. I think in the actual poll, if I remember right, they're barely in there. I think they're at the 24, 25 spot, but I thought they were ranked. In my personal poll, I have them at like 16 or 17. I think, one close loss to Oregon and beating some of these other teams that they have with Ashton Genty on the field. I mean, just phenomenal. And they've also got the schedule that if they continue to win, there's not going to be any doubt that they're one of the better teams in the country. Because they play a number of other power. I don't know. I guess Pac-2 is not now considered power opponents. I don't really know where people stand on that thought process. But did you find out if they're ranked yet, TJ?
I am looking right now. Currently, it's not telling me their ranking. Let's see.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody else in the conference is currently situated like James Madison as far as like being a rankable team. Now, Louisiana's got to be second after that victory over Wake Forest. But again, Wake Forest, not a great team, not a ranked team. So that victory only means so much. But that's probably the only other team that's anywhere near close to the conversation of being a ranked team at this point in the season, or probably for the foreseeable future, to be honest, because now that we're going to be in conference play, and unless you've got a team that's highly respected, maybe, if James Madison played Louisiana.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, 21st. Boise State is ranked.
They are?
Yep, 21st.
20. Okay. So, yeah, just at the bottom there, but they're in there. And I think they deserve to be. So, tells you where Georgia Southern could be sitting, too. Not necessarily as a ranked team or anything, but, not losing too bad to a team like that in the first game of the season with a really new starting quarterback. I don't know.
UNLV, surprisingly, not a part of any of this, is ranked just outside of top 25 at 26. So that's a little interesting tidbit. I did not know that.
I would be fine with that because what they just did was go from one quarterback who essentially quit the team. I'm not saying why he quit the team, but essentially he's off the team.
Right.
And they got the kid, and you probably heard this name, Malik Williams, Haji Halik Williams or something like that. From Campbell, played at Campbell, a dual threat, and he went in there and lit up whoever they played last week. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was one of the games on the quad box as I was watching the two Sunbelt games below. They kept highlighting that one. Yeah, okay. They just destroyed them. Yeah, it was not close. So you're telling me this team loses their starting quarterback and just gets better? I mean, I think that's pretty close to a rankable team there.
That sounds good to me. 26 sounds good to me.
Yeah, and then they probably get in there at some point. CJ's saying JMU is already sold out for Coastal Carolina, so we handing out punishments. Yeah, they have sold out for Coastal Carolina. That is a Thursday night game. The boys from ESPNU will be there for that one. I know that the guy who runs that, I'm going blank on his name. I just listened to him on XM radio this morning, but he's excited to get to Harrisonburg and see that one. So they already kind of talked that one up. All right. The last matchup of the night, well, as it's listed, they're all, again, 7 o'clock starts for all those night matchups. ESPN Plus has Louisiana traveling to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to take on the hapless Southern Miss Golden Eagles, who come in at just 1-3 on the season thus far. Any chance that the Golden Eagles jump out and surprise the Cajuns? Is it a trap game for the Cajuns as it's squeezed in between, let me just bring up Louisiana's next 3 games after this one against Southern Miss, which include Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, and Texas State. Those latter 2 on the road. So are they catching them looking ahead? You think they're going to take care of business rather easily against a team that's been struggling this year?
I think they know they can't look ahead, right? I think they know that any given Saturday in the Sun Belt Conference, anything could happen. So I think they go in. I think they handle business. Also, I don't got a lot of faith. I don't have a lot of faith in Southern Miss. They haven't played well all season. I mean, they lost to Jacksonville State going away. Jesus, that was terrible. South Florida was also awful. Their win against Southeast Louisiana, I mean, who cares, right? And then it didn't score anything at all against Kentucky. Now, give them credit. Kentucky's a really good football team. So not going to, I mean, talk about losses, quality loss, if you want to call it that.
Right.
South Florida, Jacksonville State, I mean, that's inexcusable the way that they played. So not very good football team, not a very good football team at all. I think Louisiana comes in, handles business, and gets ready for their next 3 weeks. But like you said, you can't overlook anybody in our conference. But, if you're talking about, there is a pushover in our conference right now, I think they would classify as such.
Yeah, I think so too. And it'll be interesting to see what Southern Miss does at the quarterback position. Tate Rodemaker has thrown for as many touchdowns as he has interceptions on the season, 4 and 4. That's not really going to keep your spot on the field. But John White comes in off the bench in their last game, obviously not last week. Now they've had a bye, but their last game against Jacksonville State, he comes in, throws 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now what do? Are you going to go to the third string guy and give him a shot? Did you only bring him in because the Jacksonville State game was completely out of hand and you had no other option, but Rodemaker's your guy, you're going to ride with him? I don't know. But look, the simple answer to this is Louisiana knows exactly who they're rolling with. They know how they're rolling. They just came off a very big victory in Winston-Salem, North Carolina against Wake Forest. So I don't have any doubt that Louisiana is going to come into this game and cover. Well, I don't know, 14.5, but I don't know. I still probably feel pretty confident and comfortable with that. The only thing that gives me a little pause is this one being on the road for a second straight week.
But you're talking Louisiana to Mississippi?
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's not a bad trip.
Yeah, it's definitely just a bus trip. It's not a plane ride like it was to Winston-Salem. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see any trip up. I know that, like I said, we've got Louisiana with some games coming up. App State may not be what they once were, but it's never easy usually to go up against App State and then Coastal Carolina and Texas State both on the road. It's like you said, I don't think they're going to be looking ahead. I don't think you're allowed to look ahead. I think, what do they always say? You just got to take it week by week and go 1-0 each week. I think Louisiana is rolling along and getting right back to the top of this West Division as they were kind of predicted to do by us coming into. You were even more strong on the Cajuns coming into the season than I was.
Yep. Yeah, I had them up there pretty good. I think I had them at 1 or 2 coming into the season. So and listen, they hadn't dropped very far. The problem is just Coastal is really good and JMU is even better. So it's one of those things. But I think as far as trap games go, this could be one of them. I'm not sold. I'm not sold at all. I think Louisiana wins. Like you said, the spread 14.5. I'm comfortable with that. I think that they at minimum cover that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that comes out and shocks me is if they do something crazy. I don't think they have the ability like they used to with Frank Gore Jr., where they ran a super back and like a wildcat on in the quarterback position. I don't think they have that in them right now with what they have on the roster. So I don't, because they don't have that weapon X to kind of throw out there and make this more of an even game and something that could shock people. I think Louisiana walks away with this one in the end. I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a bit of red in the stands too. Like you said, not a very far trip for the Cajun faithful to make, especially if any of them are in that closer to that New Orleans area. Then it's even easier of a trip. So we'll have to see what happens in that one. But that one wraps it up for the week of Sunbelt action. Is there anything sticking out in your mind that you want to talk about here? Fair game, extra points, whatever you want to go with.
So I don't really have a whole lot going on this week. I think if you look at the college football landscape, teams right now are where they should be. If you're talking rankings, standings, nothing sticks out. I will say this, the over-under on Colorado winning 5 games this year was a lot of people took the under.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about quality wins. They don't have a lot of them. I think UCF was a pretty good win, and appreciate that. Artie Cat says good show. That said, though, listen, if Travis Hunter is not your Heisman right now, you're not watching football. You're not watching football if Travis Hunter isn't your Heisman Trophy candidate right now. He's the best and most complete football player, quite frankly, I've ever seen in the college level. Literally, with my own eyes, have ever seen. I've never seen a player better than him. But certainly in the entire country right now, I got nobody ahead of him. I will, and Carson Beck does not look. He played himself out of a Heisman candidate sort of conversation last week. Against Alabama, he played awful that first half. Second half, picked it up, played really well. I thought Alabama was going to win that going away. They did not. But that freshman, that 17-year-old, is
Ryan Williams.
Oh my God, he is a dog.
So, well, real quick, I'll let you get back.
No, you're good.
Travis Hunter is my number one Heisman. I don't have a single quarterback because I'm sick of seeing them. But I also think it should be based on player, and quarterback touches the ball every time. So I have Travis Hunter number one. I have Ashton Genty number two because someone compared him today apparently to LaDainian Thompson, and I'm thinking this kid could be even better. It may be a little too early, but
well, let's pump our brakes on better.
I know, but
he's top 20 all time.
Yeah, but this kid could be that good. That's how much I believe in what I'm seeing through him on the field. And number three, I've got Ryan Williams because to me, he's 17. He's playing at the elite level of college football in the SEC. He's going up against grown men, and he's literally at an age where most kids haven't graduated high school. Plus, after that game, that moment where he catches that ball, goes in, has the two defenders crunch into each other, and then continues down the sideline for a touchdown. To me, you also have those Heisman moments.
Yep.
That's it right there. So he's not first for me. He's third. But Travis Hunter, like you said, he can play on both sides of the ball, continues to get it done. Yeah, maybe there's some people that say he hasn't rounded into a top wide receiver form. I don't think it matters, right? He can still do it. Yeah, he can do both. Nobody else can be doing what he's doing.
No one else is getting 80 to 90 to 100 yards receiving plus a touchdown every week. Oh, and then by the way, I'm making 2 or 3 tackles plus an interception. Like
plus a game-saving causing fumble to win the game. So I mean those are Heisman moments there as well, right? It's just ridiculous what he's able to do. And we've got some guys out here. I mean, we just talked about Devontae Ross. It had a little bit of a down week last week, but we've got some electric players in this conference as well. But definitely we wanted to talk about the national scope and maybe what people are seeing. So no real big games stick out to you this week. I mean, Missouri, number 9 against number 25, Texas A&M's probably – that's the only rank versus rank matchup.
Yeah, that's the biggest, and not super high on it. I mean, it's going to be a good game for sure, but no real huge matchups that I'm looking at as far as, something that's going to make me stay at home and sort of sit on my couch. Let's see. I mean, Oregon's got Michigan State. I'm not super enamored with that. Syracuse has played well. They got UNLV. This could be UNLV's week to get ranked, right?
Yeah. I think it could be UNLV's week to get ranked or get upset by a surprisingly good Syracuse team at home. That's not an easy trip for UNLV. Yeah. So I would, if you're going to take a chance on an upset, it's kind of weird to hear like a power program upsetting a group of 5 team, but that's exactly what that would be. I still have a lot of interest in Indiana. I mean, we've got like a half a Sun Belt All-Star roster up there at Indiana because of what Cignetti took up there with him. Now ranked in the AP Top 25 poll at number 23, 5-0. They're playing Northwestern, who's only 2-2, but it's interesting to me. Surratt, formerly at JMU, coming in top wide receiver at Indiana. So Cignetti guy knows what he was doing.
For sure.
Google him.
Google
him. Oh, man. Awesome. All right, so we wrapped it up with a little bit of Sunbelt, wrapping it back in here. Any last words before we say adieu?
I want to start the show end the show the same way we started it. Again, thoughts and prayers to those on Western North Carolina and really those across the country, right? This storm started out coming, I think it came through Florida and backside of Georgia. And so a lot in Tennessee and Western North Carolina. So thoughts and prayers for all of those families that are going through all of this stuff at this time, man. I mean, it's I've gone through my fair share of hurricanes living on the coast of North Carolina. It's been some damage and, lots of times that we've had to kind of pick up the pieces and repair and lose a lot of things. So I've watched my mom cry after some hurricanes where we've lost some family photos or some things that meant a lot to us, and having to replace furniture and spending money that we technically don't have. So I get it. I've been through it myself personally. I know what it feels like. And so I want to make sure that I'm extremely explicit when I say I love all of you guys. Again, praying for you and hope for the best for all of you to come out of this on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't do anything better than that, so I'm going to echo that sentiment. And hopefully we can all get back to a little bit more normalcy soon, and hopefully that can start as soon as tomorrow night, a little bit for the Sunbelt fans that even aren't a fan of the two teams that are going to be matching up there with Texas State and Troy. But, yeah, this weekend we'll have most of the rest of the slate to go, and we'll see you guys Sunday night.
Sunbelt Syndicate.